Hey everybody, welcome back to FSi. Looking at the 13-game monster slate for Friday, June 28th. A lot of pitching options, which is not surprising with 13 games on the board, but nobody priced above 10K. So salary is not too much of an issue. There's quite a few value teams out there, teams like Detroit and the Angels, who are going to have some cheaper options for you to target if you do want to go double high salary at pitcher. So we got the sheet. Let's break it all down. In terms of the high salary, we're going to be starting off with Logan Gilbert. He is going to be my favorite pitcher. Is he going to be my favorite pitcher? I really like Ober, but we'll get to that once we get over to the mid-salary tier. But Gilbert, amongst these 5 guys priced above 9K, is going to be my favorite pitcher. He has been looking awesome as of late. Matchup against Minnesota, it's not awful. It's not great either. But still, the form that he is in, back-to-back starts of 8 innings pitched, no earned runs. He's looking quite dominant here. I think it's going to be able to continue at home against Minnesota tonight. After Gilbert, we're going to go with Blanco, Morton, and then I feel like a gap in the Webb and Scherzer. Morton, he does have a little bit of a rain threat going on. The Atlanta-Pittsburgh matchup, the Colorado-Chicago White Sox matchup, and the KC-Cleveland matchup all do have some rain threats. Just pay attention to those. That's what this light blue that you see on the screen is just pay attention to a little bit of rain. Webb, brutal matchup facing off against the Dodgers. But, a higher ground ball pitcher makes things a little bit easier in terms of it's not going to absolutely destroy you, if you're not doing too well, just being with that high ground ball pitcher. But still, a matchup against the Dodgers, not really what you want to see. And then Scherzer, he was awesome in his return back. However, he only went 5 innings and 56 pitches, I think he went? 57 pitches that he went. So clearly, Texas is still being very cautious with him. Now, kind of the interesting thing is that Scherzer was up to 70 pitches in his rehab starts, but then he gets to the majors and they pull him back down to 57. And it's not like he was struggling. He was doing awesome. So they're really being cautious with him. I don't expect him to eclipse 70 pitches in this start. If he does, I cannot see it going above 75. Pitch limitation, facing off against Baltimore. I really don't think I'm going to have a whole lot of interest in Scherzer here today just because there's so many other options, like Bradley Ober, who in his back-to-back starts, both against Oakland, I feel like that's something we need to talk about. Both against Oakland, but 2 starts, 18 strikeouts, 2 walks, and 3 earned runs, all via the solo home run. So he has looked absolutely dominant. His salary has not really moved at all, just a couple of hundred increase here. Now he's facing off against Seattle. Seattle, the team that strikes out the most in the majors against right-handed pitchers. So seeing Ober go out there and get another 8 strikeout performance is entirely possible. And I think that Ober could be a pretty popular option here for people tonight. If you do want to go with the Gilbert and Ober combination, you're looking at around 4K remaining for your bats. There's value out there. With 26 teams going, there are definitely a handful of guys who are priced under 3.5K or even 3K who are going to be able to get into your lineup and feel pretty good about it, so you can get some of those bigger bats to correlate with them. After Ober in that mid-tier, we're going to go with Pivetta. Let me pause. After Ober, there's a gap. I feel there is a very large gap. And then it's guys like Pivetta and Knack and Stroman and Taillon and Kikuchi. Pavetta's got the highest strikeout rate among the remainder of these guys. But all of these pitchers below Ober in this mid-tier are facing off against teams that do not strike out often. So there's going to be a lot of strikeout limitation. Pivetta, best strikeout stuff of the guys, so I'm going to go with him at 8.3K. Stroman and Kikuchi, both in just awful matchups in terms of strikeout upside. Kikuchi, obviously facing off against the Yankees, makes him a 150 lineup kind of pitcher for me. Stroman against Toronto, I do like him a little bit more, but his strikeout rate is just so weak. It's tough to really get excited about Stroman, especially when you got a guy like Ober who's only 100 more. So yeah, Ober against the highest strikeout team who's a guy who's capable of double-digit strikeouts, or a guy facing off against the Yankees or Toronto who doesn't have any strikeout upside, all separated within a couple hundred. It doesn't make any sense. Knack, pay attention to him. I don't think he's going to go super deep into the game. He had that one start way back earlier in the season where he went 94 pitches. But, every other start that he's gone, it's between 65, 75 pitches. So, again, it's kind of like the Scherzer thing. It's not a brutal matchup like Scherzer is in. But do you want to be paying the salary for a guy who's not going to get a full stretched out run at his start when there's so many other guys who are not too different in terms of salary around him that are going to be far better plays? Over into the cheap tier, we're going to go with Thorpe. Thorpe has the highest over-under in terms of strikeout rate amongst these cheaper guys, and he's thrown that strikeout ability, or he's going to have that strikeout ability facing off against Colorado. Decent. Looking at the logs, he got absolutely just nuked against Arizona. I'm just throwing that one right out there. Not too concerned about that. This is more so the matchup facing off against Colorado than it is anything. However, there is rain concern, so be a little iffy on that rain concern. Ciccone, he's probably, I would say, my favorite. I might move Ciccone up above Thorpe just because of the rain concern with him. But Ciccone, let me pull him up here. Facing off against Oakland. We love anybody facing off against Oakland. And now we got a guy who is priced dirt cheap at 6.2K. Am I excited about it? No. I mean, I really feel that on this slate, especially in cash, I'm going to be paying double high for pitcher. It's probably going to be Gilbert and it's probably going to be Ober as my two starting pitchers. If I was going the cash route. But in GPP, and you really wanted to get a little bit different and go with more of these cheap guys, I feel like Ciccone is probably going to be the guy that I'd probably have the most interest in. After that, I really just don't like much. So while there are a lot of pitching options I have confidence in is much less. Gilbert, Blanco, Morton, Ober, Thorpe, Ciccone, it gets ugly. It gets ugly pretty quick. But yeah, so that's kind of where pitching shakes out. In terms of the bats, there's a lot of cheap guys over on Detroit and over on Cincinnati. So Cincinnati, one thing you got to be paying attention to with them is their injuries. They have so many injuries to some of their top bats and their top salary guys. So if all these guys like Candelario, Fraley, Stevenson are indeed out, you're only looking at two batters for Cincinnati priced above 3.7K. This is a team that has home run upside. This is a team that has crazy stolen base upside. So Jonathan India, he's been doing phenomenal. One of the One of the better hitters in the entire league over the past week or 2 weeks or so, just smacking the cover off the ball. You can see he's averaging 12.2 DK points per game here over his past 10 games. And like I said, he's been doing fantastic. Nice cheap guy at 3.7 if you do want to go with Cincinnati. If you are going with Cincinnati, it's really tough to fade Elly De La Cruz. But at that 6.4 salary price tag, it's tough to get these mid-6 salary guys when you're going double high ace pitchers in your builds. Detroit, though, they do also have some more affordable guys. They don't have a guy like Elly De La Cruz. But Riley Green, certainly going to be the front runner on the board here at 4.9K. But even guys like Vierling should certainly be in play for you. Nobody really on Detroit that I'm don't play them at all. Plesac is not a pitcher who's going to be striking out many guys. I think when I was looking at the odds, his over-under on strikeouts was 3.5, and it was juiced to the under. So Detroit's going to be able to make a lot of contact here. Plesac also allows a lot of hard contact. So I really think that Detroit might be my favorite overall up and down. Favorite cheap stack tier that you can go to here tonight. In terms of top bats, Boston is going to be my favorite team that's not really impacted by rain at all. I really do like Cleveland as well. But Boston's not going to be facing any rain concerns. Guys like, and they have so many lefties. We talk about this in all the videos where we're like highlighting Boston. They just have so many lefties in their lineup that can do so much damage to these right-handed pitchers that just can't seem to get the strikeout rate and do allow a little bit of harder contact. Colton Wong, he should be back tonight. He's been missing a couple of games just due to his paternity leave. His wife just had a child, so he's going to be back in the lineup tonight. This guy has been a monster in terms of batting average, and he's had some pop in his bat as well. I mean, he's on pace for 16, 17 home runs, which is quite shocking. I wasn't really expecting that from him this season, but I keep on expecting the regression, and it just does not seem to ever be happening. Like, this guy seems to be swinging a very nice bat here this year. But then you have your typical guys like Devers and Duran, who are certainly going to be in play. Hamilton, he was up in the 2 spot for Boston here recently. So if he's getting that much love in the 2 spot and he's hitting the ball well like he is, hitting almost 300, certainly going to have some play, and he's only 4.2K. So it's not even like the top bats are super expensive on the board here. So I'm going to go with Boston as my favorite. And then favorite GPP is going to be Arizona. Let me pull him up here. Corbin Carroll. Man, as I'm scrolling through, I'm just thinking of him. What a season he's had. But they're going to be my favorite GPP play. I feel like people are still a little bit put off by Arizona bats. It seems like when I'm looking at their ownerships, they're just continually a little bit or a lot less owned than I feel like they should be on a lot of these slates. Facing off against Sears, left-handed pitcher. Arizona, while they are one of the worst teams in the league against right-handed pitching, they're one of the best teams in the league against left-handed pitching this season. So you're going to be starting off with Marte. You're going to be inputting Walker in there, Perdomo, Gurriel at 4K. Like, these guys are very affordable. You're going to be able... They're not as affordable as teams like Cincinnati and Detroit, obviously. You know, they're in a cheap category. But if you do want to go with a big stack of Arizona, you're probably going to be having to drop down from one of these pitchers. And that's another reason why I feel it's more of a GPP play, is because if you are going with a large Arizona stack, you're kind of forced to play a pitcher that there's just not a whole lot of confidence in. I'm not expecting any of these pitchers like in the cheap category, or like Pivetta and below. I'm not expecting any of them to see really above 20% ownership, 15 to 20% ownership. Like, it's going to be really, really spread out down here. So yeah, take a shot, hope to get lucky, and that they have a nice strikeout game. But I would probably go with Ciccone or Thorpe if the rain looks good. So yeah, that kind of covers everything. I'm not going to go through every single game. This will be an hour-long video. But hopefully this was able to at least guide you in the right direction, and the sheet is helpful in terms of, you know, where my brain is going in terms of this slate. Hopefully this goes a lot better than Wednesday's slates. Wednesday's slates were just atrocious with the rain and the delays. Like, radar was clear in Boston at the start of first pitch, and then all of a sudden a pop-up thunderstorm starts and they're gone by the second inning, and just, yeah, I'm done. So frustrating. All right, good luck in your contest as always. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.